welcome to another hashtag minute mockups. I don't know why I included a hashtag. I thought it'd be cool, maybe help me, I don't know, market this video. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna start on the second video today. So last time I did Home, the piece derived from Joseph Campbell's Monomyth, from the ordinary world, which is the first step on the hero's journey. The second step on the hero's journey is the call to adventure. Now, that name to me sounds like very fantasy, very Lord of the Rings, very like rousing, spurring kind of music, whereas actually the title I've gone for is Dark Clouds, because actually the call to adventure isn't the adventure. The call to adventure is the darkness that is happening that causes our hero to need to go on an adventure. So I've called the piece Dark Clouds, as you can see if I scroll all the way to the top of the score here. Dark Clouds. Yeah, so classic orchestra as we did last week. 3 flutes, 3 oboes, 3 clarinets, 3 saxes, 3 bassoons, 4 horns, 3 trumpets, 3 trombones, tuba, timpani and 3 percussion, harp, piano and strings. So, Dark Clouds is a very different title to the one we had last week. And the other thing about last week's videos is the fact that I could sort of build to a climax in the piece, whereas this one is meant to be unsettled. It's not quite hopelessness yet, it's just the knowledge that the character is going to have to go through a journey. The ordinary world is being unbalanced, there's been a shift, and now something needs to change, something needs to move. How does this relate to music? How can I demonstrate this in music? So, I mean, I wrote a couple of things down. I wrote things like, you know, minor thirds and triads and using the octatonic scale. The octatonic scale, for those of you who may not be aware, is if I was to start on C, basically the octatonic scale is half step, whole step, half step, whole step. So in that case, it would be C to D flat, to E flat, to E natural, to F sharp, to G, to A, to B flat, and then up to C. But of course in there you've got the minor triad, but then you've also got the major triad, you've got the Lydian sharp 4, but then you've got the flat 9, you've got the flat 7, and you've got the natural 6. The thing about octatonicism is that there's a lot of things you can dip into. But as well as going half step, whole step, half step, whole step, you can also go whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So in that case it would be C to D, to E flat, to F, to F sharp, or G flat, to G sharp, to A, to B, and then to C, and then half step up to C. So yeah, that's how. And in this case, you have the minor third, but then you have an augmented fifth, and then you have the normal 7, you have the normal 9, but then you also have the natural 4 and the sharp 4. Very interesting scale, both of them. It's also called the diminished scale if you're into your jazz. And I just think there's a lot of uncertainty in this scale. It's got 8 notes instead of 7. The octave has been divided up into 8 as opposed to 7. Yeah, I'm going to try and mess around with some ideas to do with octatonicism and also, you know, minor thirds and triads and tritone, sorry, because there's a tritone in here. You've got the D to G sharp, you've got E flat to A, another tritone, you've got F to B, a few minor thirds in there as well. It's a really interesting scale, it's a really cool scale, and I thought I would add it to some string harmonics. I really like writing harmonics for strings. I like using the touch fourth harmonic, and the way I tend to write that out is like this. So what that means is you're playing a D on the violin, and then you lightly touch the string, what would be a fourth up, and that gives you the note 2 octaves above. I think that's a really interesting sound, and when you listen to pieces that use it, it's a really interesting timbre. It's very delicate, very thin, very on the edge. And then I've thought about using some orchestral rumbling. So yeah, I'm gonna just noodle around for a second and see what I come up with, and I'll show you guys in a second. I've done an octatonic sort of thing starting on D flat. As you can see here, I've got the harp doing some stuff. With the harp, you have the 7 strings, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. The way it works is that you have reoccurring 7 strings along the harp, so you have 7, 7, 7. And you flatten a note or you sharpen a note. And so with the harp, when you flatten the string, you actually make the string slightly longer because of how that works, basically. And so you get a much more resonant tone with it. And so I think actually writing with flats, if I make this out as D flat and then just never make the harp play D, basically. And then it works better when you've got the A flat and the B flat up top. Basically, to start things off, I've got a kind of, it's not a fugue, it's not a canon, not really call and response-y. I don't know what it is. It's this little sort of milieu at the start of string harmonics. And I've also done this little thing on the contrabass and then also the timpani, and then I've expanded that to include contrabassoon in a few bars as well as the harp. So the idea is that I've got these string harmonics doing this kind of creepy thing, and then underneath you've got this just underneath. And I've written this piece in 2/2 so far, minim equals 80. The reason I've done that is when you're writing music that might have some fast moments in it, so the I think it's better writing that as quavers than semi-quavers, especially because in a minute I'm going to do some more sort of bubbling, which will be sort of faster runs. Anyway, let's have a listen to what we've got so far. Okay, so something else I've noticed, I'm actually 19 seconds in, which is a third of the time I have allocated. So actually I need to start hurrying and developing some ideas quickly because I'm just going to run out of time. And actually I need to convey that something unsettling is happening, which is why, I mean, when just listening back, I was a bit annoyed when the came back a bit quicker than I thought it should. So I think maybe if I put that back by a bar, but I think it needs to come in at, you know, sharpest. It needs to start building, otherwise what's happening, you know, there's no tension being built, it's just sort of happening. So what you may have also noticed is I've written one soli on the strings, and that's because I only want the first chair to play it, so the top of the violin 1, the top of the violin 2, the top of the viola. And the reason I want that is I want a really delicate sound, so I'm going to start introducing more and more members of the orchestra. So I've got this sighing sort of thing on the violin 1. So it goes, and then on the next repetition of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it back. Instead of being violin 1, I'm going to change it back to being a full violin section. So anyway, I'm going to write a little bit more. I'm going to try and add on to this kind of thing and just have that build. And what I want to do is I want it to be like a so you sort of have the first notes of and then that causes a stir, you know, a something, or I don't know, I need to figure it out. I need to go and actually write it. And I've added this sort of idea, so you've got the on the first beat, but the first 4 hits, you know, are marked by timpani and tuba and contrabass and contrabassoon, and then all the others will be sort of like a creeping in and out. I've also added something in the bass clarinet and clarinet 2, this and it's just to give a bit of accent to what's going on. It's really quick, really, and that's why I've done it on the clarinet. I'm going to start building up. So I've added in the all here, so that's, you know, it's all violins, that sort of sigh. I sort of incorporate that into the cellos. The cellos have been introduced finally. So let's have a quick listen from about here, let's say when the violas enter. Yeah, so you've sort of got that idea going on. I'm going to keep building on it, and I'm going to keep building the tension up, and I'm going to start layering it up through the winds. So nearly 30 seconds of music, which is good. I think the problem is that I'm struggling to see a trajectory, really. I'm struggling to see where I'm heading, if that makes sense. As you've seen the opening, and then adding more and more strings, and then I've started now to actually incorporate the strings into the rumble, because I think actually it'd be nice to take that shifting harmonic sound that was very delicate at the start and then give that to sort of stronger sounding instruments, piccolo, things like that. Incorporating more of this sort of rumble. I'm doing a lot more up here in the winds as well. I like the idea of having a lot of people play something very quietly. I think there's something really interesting about that, because you still get a really big sound. You feel all the rich timbres of everyone, so it's still a big sound, but it's just so like weirdly delicate, and I like the idea. I think this piece is meant to be like foreboding. Anyway, I'm building up this texture more. Let's have a quick listen, shall we? A quick listen. Let's just go from the start. It's only 30 seconds of music. Let's see how I'm doing so far. I quite like the fact that you can't really hear the timpani and the contrabass at the start here. I think you probably would be able to if I mixed it super well, but I like the idea it's a really underlying sort of like thing. Okay, I think I need to put a break in there for a second. I feel like it's all building, and I feel like actually to do the strings justice, I feel like actually that needs to be a break in the texture. I think it needs to be this harmonics and the winds are building up and the brass are building up a bit, and then there needs to be a moment of darkness. I think maybe some muted brass, and then we come back in with the strings. Yeah, let me work on that. Let me see what I can come up with. I've changed the tempo first of all from minimum equals 80 to minimum equals 74, and just revel a bit in the creepiness. And another way I've done that is by adding an extra 4 bars. I just think it adds a bit more space, a bit more creepiness to the start. See what you think. So yeah, that's what I've got so far, basically. I'm thinking I'm going to do a bit of an explosion here for about 4 bars of just really dark sort of harmonies, really very da-da-da-da. Going to try and use those tritones a bit, use those minor thirds a bit, and then I'm going to maybe strip it right back to just violin harmonics and maybe something in the winds. Musically, it's very stagnant, I feel. I'm very much in D-flat octatonic. The root is very much D-flat, which actually I'm okay with. I think the idea of keeping it in D-flat doesn't hurt. I think it's about what you do on top of it that does that. I think when you change the root, it becomes this really drastic moment. And I think we don't need a drastic moment here. The drastic moment comes probably in the next one, which is going to be crossing the first threshold, where our hero is going to leave the nest and actually go out into the world. So this is much more of a like dark looming presence, and I think it needs to maintain that character, that root of D flat. I think we just need to make it as uneasy as possible in D flat. Let's think about that at the start. So we've got it equals 74. So I'm going to add some words like mysterious. Yeah, mysterious. I think that's a good word. It's very mysterious at the start. It's very, you know, ooh, what's happening? So let me just work a bit on this. I'm hoping to create a bit of chaos here and then bring it back down to the creep. We'll see. So yeah, I think I'm approaching the finish line. So I've got a minute and 1 second of music. Allow me the 1 second. Give me that 1 second. This section here, the moving forward section, is a bit of an explosion, a bit of a climax. I'm not sure I'm entirely convinced by it, but I'm just going to listen to it all the way through and see how it leads up to there, see if that kind of works. So yeah, I feel like that section, the moving forward section, I feel like it explodes a bit too much for me. It's a bit too full on. Dark clouds to me. So dark clouds, if you were to say to me thunder and lightning, that's what that section would be. But to me, dark clouds is like a looming feeling. It's like a longing towards darkness. It's like leading. It's the opening of a path. You're not down the creek yet without a paddle. you can see it in the distance, and you're thinking to yourself, oh god, I hope I don't lose this battle. That's what you're thinking. And so I feel like maybe this section is just not quite right. I may have to go back to the drawing board. What I might do is I do this quite a lot, is that I might do a save as and then see what I can change. You know what, I need to work more on my melody writing, I really do, because what will happen is I'll either use the melody and use it to death, or I'll write a melody and then just be like, no, yeah, that's just a bit of material I don't need anymore. Whereas this I've got here, it's quite a cool little melody, so I'm gonna work a bit more on that. A lot has changed. I cut the middle section. I cut that big bit. I just felt like it wasn't working. It wasn't right. And also, what I've done is I've tried to shy away from brass a bit more, just because, as you can see, sort of with the whole layout of this piece, you've got very stark opening, and then you've got this middle section where it's building up in the winds, and then eventually we start introducing some brass for sort of these 3 bars, basically, a bit of tuba there, and then it's this ending. So this is what I've got so far, and I'll talk through it and what the sort of last minute changes, the last couple of changes I might sort of do. I feel like having that opening really helps to give a pace. So yeah, as you can see, a lot starker, and I think that's good. I didn't want to over orchestrate it. I actually brought it to one of my teachers this morning and showed it to him, and he was a bit like, yeah, maybe you're over orchestrating this. There's just like a moment, like a quick sort of mini kind of climax, but not quite really. Part of the dark clouds, you know, one of those kind of moments. And then I really love the bowed glockenspiel sound. The horns I feel quite bad for, because they've got nothing to do until that one bar where they play this chord here, just that whap. It's kind of a cool chord. It's the octatonic chord, so all 8 notes are present. And this ending, yeah, it's a bit more sinister, a bit more airy. I've also added a flute sort of obligato passage at near the opening. Obligato? Oh, I don't even know what that word means. I just hear people say it. And I might actually do alto flute. Oh, I don't know what the idea is. Because my flute 2 is also doubling alto flute, and I actually think the alto flute, it's in a sort of register that I think the alto flute would really dig. So that's the A flute. It's a bit softer, but then also a bit more present in that sort of lower register, and I think it has a really awesome otherworldly kind of sound. And then I'll go back to just normal flute when I get to there. So I'm pretty confident that I've done it. I think it's finished. So if you were to compare it directly to the last piece that I did, the score is a little bit longer. That's just because it's got a slightly quicker tempo. I've added a bit of a harp sort of gliss thing. The brass are doing far less than they were when I originally wrote this piece. They are definitely sort of held in reserve. The oboe 3 has 1 note. Bless. Oh, someone's racing outside. Yeah, let's have a quick listen, shall we? And see how it goes. Okay, I'm reasonably happy with that. The bowed glockenspiel. Now, obviously the white keys are on the bottom and the black keys are on the top. So that means that if you're playing a white note with a bow, you have to hold it this side, you know, closest to you. And then if you're doing it a sharpened or flat note, you'd have to do it the far side. As you might be able to see here, I go from a D flat to a G to an F. It just might be a bit difficult, so I might have to tell them that it's going to need potentially 2 bows. I was going to talk a little bit about mutes, so I've used cut mutes here. Now, when you say to a brass musician, you know, use mute, con sordino is the Italian term, or if you could just put mute, they're going to say what mute. And there's loads of different types. There's cut mutes, harmonic mutes, plunger mutes, there's hat mutes, there's a few different types. There's a few different types of cut mutes actually. I feel like I'm going to leave it to the discretion of the players here, but the different timbres of mutes are something that I am not 100% literate with. I think you'd really have to ask a brass player as to what their opinion was on that. Yeah, I think that's about it then. I think really that. It's nice and creepy, which is what I wanted. It's sparse, it's creepy, it's suspenseful. And another thing, I showed this in my lesson, and I shared my lesson with a friend of mine who's a brass player. And he was saying about, you know, when you see brass players bringing instruments up to their mouths just to do a quick it's a bit anticlimactic, but then also, you know, brass instruments take a lot of effort, a lot more effort than wind instruments do. And so actually it makes more sense if you're doing this delicate kind of like rumbling to do it in the winds. The moment, that's when the brass are there to help with the climax. It's the same with percussion. I think orchestral percussion is for accenting as opposed to rhythm. You know, a rhythm section, you know, that has a drummer, that's there to keep rhythm, whereas, you know, an orchestral percussion section is there to accent things, is there to provide dings and dongs and, you know, crescendos and things like that. So like here I've got the tam tam of the bass drum crescendoing through this bar like this. They help create an overall kind of sound world, this overall sort of vibration that leads to somewhere, which I think is really useful. Yeah, so that's my piece, Dark Clouds. The next minute mockups I will be doing, the next minute long mockup, will be crossing the first threshold, aka the point of no return, so a major decision. So this one is the threat. The first one is our hero in their natural habitat. This one is our hero seeing the need for adventure. The next one is them leaving for the adventure. I have got music on Bandcamp, just to say, and I've got music on SoundCloud as well, on my website. I've got music on Apple Music and Spotify. Just, you know, type in Eden Longson, you'll be able to find something there. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you've enjoyed more insights into the compositional process, especially when it comes to writing miniatures such as this. But yeah, thank you for watching. Please like, please comment, please subscribe. Thank you so much. I'm going to play the piece one more time for y'all. For y'all. Cool, thanks for watching.